Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gay with God podcast. This is Midge Noble, and I am here on a very cold yet sunny day, and I am celebrating the fact that even though I love our cabin, our sacred space in the mountains, I'm so grateful that I'm not there right now. For those of you who may follow me on Facebook, we went up Wednesday before last, and we were supposed to come home on Sunday. And we were expecting to see a beautiful snowstorm up on the mountain, which was fine because it was predicting all snow and it was going to be beautiful and wonderful. And where we are in the cabin, things don't last very long there. It's like it snows and you might have it for a day or two, maybe three. But, it could have extended our time there after Sunday, but not for very long. However, as life has it, you can't always expect what you think you're going to get. And so we were there. It snowed briefly for a day or so, and then it turned to sleet and snow and then just sleet. So everything that had fallen and blanketed our beautiful surroundings, it became an ice rink, literally thick, unpenetrable ice all the way around the cabin, all the way down the driveway. I had to go out and try to lift up ice and give a place for the puppers to go to the bathroom. And if they deviated from that and hit that ice, they were going down the hill. We had to keep them on a leash to make sure that we could drag them up if they did get off the safe zone. And we were there for a week trying to figure out, well, really a week and a day and a half, because the next storm was coming that Friday. And we started investigating who could pound ice. And I mean, our driveway is like a half a mile up because it was an old logging road. So it's on its good days, it's sometimes hard for some cars to get up there, and getting down on all ice, no matter what you're driving, is a very scary adventure. So we got around to a group that could help us kind of find somebody, and they did. They had to borrow and rent a skid, which is some kind of heavy equipment that can get through ice, they say, because regular tractors and plows were not touching this ice. Even for me to clear the walkway to get us down the steps from the cabin to load the car, I had to use a handheld mallet and beat the ice several times in one place to get it to crack. It was incredibly difficult. And I don't want you to think that I'm, really that strong. I think it was sheer determination and just absolutely not paying attention to my body when it was screaming from all of the abuse I was giving it. But we got it done and got packed up, and we came home on that Friday before the storm hit. Or it might have been Thursday, but I'm bad with numbers and bad with that. So, but anyway, we got home before that Friday, and before the storm hit. I was so grateful for the people of Lawn Brothers in Sparta that rented that equipment and got someone up there to clear the driveway so that we could get home. I still failed 3 times trying to load the car. Well, one time was something separate, but 2 times trying to load the car. By the time we got home, we were so surprised to see that our entire driveway and our yard was covered in ice. Yeah, here at McNabb Manor. Yeah, right here. And so I also fell again, unloading the car and trying to get the mail here. And yeah, so my body's a little bit sore. And And we're trying to figure out a way now to continue to get to some appointments that we have this week because things are still murky here. It's not so great. And I still need to get out and do some appointments that I don't want to have to cancel. So I'm going to try to do that. But here we are, and I'm so glad that you're joining in and that you're with me. And I want to apologize that I do not have the guest that I was going to have for you. Last Monday, actually, I was going to tape it and then I was going to be able to give this person to you today. However, up on the mountain with all the inclement weather, the Zoom just was not reliable and I could not keep the signal long enough in the beginning. We did get to chat later and it was a wonderful conversation. So I am going to get that person rescheduled and we're going to be able to have a wonderful conversation with him and his memoir. And I'm so excited that people are wanting to share their stories and have them honored and also be able to promote whatever it is that they're invested in and feel a passion for, because that's what we're all about is community. Speaking of community, today is the second day of Black History Month for this month of February, and I had a great discussion with my formation class for the Episcopal Church here in Asheboro, and we met on Zoom on Sunday, and we were talking about the bigotry and the violence that's going on here. And two of our members of the group, one being the actual leader of the group, pointed out, and welcome to our Black History Month as of today, and that was yesterday on Sunday. And we talked about that the Black History Month is something that can be celebrated because of all the accomplishments and all of the sacrifices that the African American community has made to our states all across the United States of America. And then someone said something, and I can't remember exactly what they had said, but my comment back was, I will never understand what, these two ladies went through in their lifetimes. I will never understand what it feels like to put your child in a car and have to give them the talk about how to respond if a police officer pulls them over, how to respond if a white person begins to, act like a bigot or, do something to them, how they would survive to get back home. And the fear and the holding of the breath and not being able to rest until your child is back under your roof. I'll never understand what it's like to be taken from my own country and put in somebody else's country. Now, and, in the bottom of a boat with hundreds and how many hundreds of people crammed in there together. The stench, the lack of bathroom opportunities, the restraints, the tight quarters, the claustrophobia. I'll never know what that feels like. Can I empathize? Yeah. Yeah. But have I been through anything like that, even as a gay woman? No, because I can pass. I can pass in this country as a white female woman and nobody would know I was gay. Now, they'd have to be deaf because, I don't hold it in very well. But if you just saw me walking down the street on a normal day, you may not pick up that I'm gay. Gay people may pick up I'm gay, but other people I can pass. I'm feminine looking. I've tried to have the swagger. I'm not a lipstick lesbian, but I am feminine. And so I do understand that I may look more feminine to other people, and some people may know and others may not. The point of this is that I can pass if I feel threatened. Nobody may know. And I can also pass as being queer because, sometimes I wear, and oftentimes I will wear colors that will identify myself to some of our community so that they will know that they're around someone that's safe for them. And other people may know what those colors represent. Other people may not. But normally, I can pass. A black person, a brown person, an Asian person can't pass. They can't pass because they they have a different skin, they have different eyes, they have different ways of traditions. And this time of life right now that we're in, it's narrowing the safe zone, because now they're going after people that are white. They're going after people who are journalists. They're going after people who are disagreeing online and the creators. And so the safety zone is very narrow right now, and yet it's expanding as to who they're including in their targets. Our African American brothers and sisters have always been a target because of the color of their skin and because of the racist rhetoric that has always been used, and the way people believed in them being less than, that they were less smart, they were less capable, they were less human. All of the things that have been said and believed about and recorded, as in their ignorance or their lack of abilities or their lack of worthiness. And I want us to remember that in Black History Month this year in 2026, we need to stop forgetting the plights and the racism and the bigotry that these brothers and sisters of ours have faced from the moment they were stolen from their country and brought to this country. Would they have ever come here? I don't know. But it should have been their choice. It should not have been through kidnapping and then held hostage and then enslaved and then beaten and raped and treated as less than, not allowed to vote, not to have any rights, having to avert their eyes on a sidewalk, having to make sure that they respond, yes, sir, because they might be beaten if they didn't. And they might be beaten anyway because of the color of their skin. It's like people did not even think that they were worthy of any kindness or respect. They clearly did not believe they deserved any respect because they treated them less good than they would have treated an animal on their farm or a special pet that may have been allowed to live in the house. They weren't allowed to live in the house. They weren't allowed to drink from the same faucet. They were not allowed to go into church and be among everybody. They had to sit up in the balcony. They weren't allowed to look a woman in the eye. They weren't allowed to speak unless they were spoken to. They were given the worst jobs. They were beaten. They were raped. They were discarded. And even the brave members of that community that served in the wars that we fought and were influential in those wars, they did not get to come home to any kind of fanfare or love or compassion. Some of them never even were brought home because if they died, they just left them there. Some of them that did come home never got what they deserved. And I know that I'm speaking only about this and the Vietnam War and other soldiers that have come back from other questionable wars did not get the fanfare that other wins that we had in history had given them because of the political beliefs about certain wars like Vietnam. And that's a disgrace too, that anybody who fights for this country is a hero. And I'm sad that not everybody was able to come home to a celebration and to honor. So during this Black History Month, I want us to recognize where we are still in our understanding of each other, in our treatment of each other, and remembering that even though we may all individually be trying to protect our own safety, we have a group of brothers and sisters who have never, ever felt safe in this country. Ever. They've never experienced being out among other people and felt safe. They have experienced hangings, beatings, rapes, and disrespect. They've been treated so poorly by people in this country that they may never, ever feel safe. What was so poignant during our conversation on Sunday was that my friends said that even though they have gone through so much in their lifetime, they're 80 and 90 years old, and what they've been through from all of this time that they've lived on earth, that they as a people, an African American people, have not ever lost their faith. And if you ever pay attention, the endurance and the ability to keep moving forward, knowing that generations and generations of Black people have been murdered and not allowed to have their civil rights and are always targets, they still have a deep calling in their faith. And you could see it even in the fields, the gospels that they would sing. And some of those gospel songs were definitely ways to communicate with each other, but it was also a testimony to where the white man could not keep them from having faith. That was one thing that they could never take away from them, is their belief in their Creator. So I want us to pause this February 2026 and really pay attention to what we can do to continue to fight for, respect, and honor our African American brothers and sisters who are now in this country generationally without their permission, and yet they continue to serve and try to make life better for not only their own community, but for democracy and for everything good that we want this country to stand for eventually. Thank you, everybody, for hanging with me this morning. Thank you for being a part of this community. If you would like to get links to connect with me on social media, go to empoweredmidge.podbean.com. You can also find my memoir, Gay with God, Reclaiming My Faith, Honoring My Story, in those links. If you order directly from me at the Gay with God website, you can get a signed copy if you're interested in that. Also, check out our Facebook group, Gay with God, where we do a monthly Zoom group entitled My Faith Journey. If you need support to help you through your coming out or faith journey, go to that show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see how to connect with me and get a complimentary free session to see whether or not coaching with me is something you'd be interested in. If you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in a relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, are not even sure if you are gay, God has always been within you. Even when you didn't know it, you have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.